we'll start with the agenda for the day. The first thing that we'll discuss is that CX is not just about NPS. So there are transactional and relationship kind of surveys. Then the main topic, what are NPS, CS and CSAT. Then some industry use cases on where this can be applied. Then in the end, we'll talk about closed loop feedback. And then there will be a Q&A as well. So during this time, in the middle, when you have questions, we'll take some pause and answer some other questions as well. So make sure that you have the chat open already so that you can type your question. And other thing that I wanted to announce that we'll be doing another webinar on state of CX in Asia, that how CX is done in Asia and what is going well and what can still be improved. We'll do that on 24th Jan. And since we are talking about Asia, I'll just say that I'm glad to see, I think this is the first webinar where people from different countries are joining. People are from India, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and others. So whole Asia has joined. So nice to meet you all. By that said, we'll just start the webinar today. And Rajneesh, whenever anyone has any questions on the chat, you just stop me and let me know, okay?
Sure, Tanuj.
Okay, so once again, thank you everyone for joining. So let's start. So first thing, I think this is from one of our research as well. Like most of the people we meet and we work with, they are using NPS as the only metric. But CX is not just about NPS. There are other metrics as well. One example is like direct feedback metrics, which can be NPS, CES, CSAT, and even drop-off surveys. Then there are other metrics which are kind of like indirect feedback, but we are still getting them. For example, support tickets, categories, volumes via calls, emails, chats, etc. Ticket closure rate, how soon we are closing it. What are people talking about us in social media, and what are the customer reviews they give us about our product or on our websites. Then there are business metrics as well, which should be a part of CX. And Rajneesh, if it's okay, can you put yourself on mute? There's a little background noise.
Sure, Tanuj.
Yeah. So there are business metrics as well, which CX people should always track. Like customer churn rate, customer renewal rate, what is the customer lifetime value, what is the average spend that every customer does. So be it any industry, there are these 3 to 4 things that we should always measure about. So why we put this here as well, because before the webinar, we asked some questions in the registration section that, okay, what kind of questions that you have. So people have talked about, is NPS relevant, or are there any other metrics as well? So that's why we are covering those as well along the presentation. And we'll answer other questions as well during that. So why these things are important? But because let's suppose if you're a technology company, so an NPS might not mean anything to a developer, a technical guy, mean nothing. But if there are a lot of support tickets on difficulty to log in or onboarding, then definitely it makes sense to them. So don't just follow the NPS or the direct feedback path. If you're in CX, think about these metrics as well. So we'll talk why these are important, because one of the most common CX challenges, so we do a research with all our customers and some CX folks we know on a yearly basis. And one of the most common challenge that I see is people say that the biggest challenge is to assign ownership to different departments for CX initiatives. This is a challenge for most of the people I have been working with. And when I understand why, when I ask them a question, most of the time, this is the answer, that we share feedback with every team, but rarely do we share the impact it makes on the business. So most of the teams that we work with, marketing, sales, operations, everyone is looking for, okay, if we change this, which we have heard from some kind of feedback, what is the impact that it is going to make on our business, on our key goals, on our metrics as a department. But as a CX team, when we are not able to share that with people, then they often do not take action on the feedback. And as a CX person, we get frustrated. So that's why we talked about business metrics before, and we'll talk about how to involve them as well during this presentation.
Tanuj, yeah.
Go ahead, Rajneesh.
Yeah, I think we should start the first poll, because you mentioned the challenges
Definitely.
we are facing. So yeah, I'm going to launch a poll and
Yep.
we'll wait for the response. After that, I'll end up the poll.
Okay. So we'll give 30 seconds, people, because this will set up the context of the presentation as well. We would like to know, like as a CX professional, which of these CX metrics do you actually track at the moment? And some of these questions and answers, whatever you give them, we'll talk about in our next webinar, which is State of CX in Asia. Is the poll visible, Rajneesh?
It's visual to me,
Okay,
and I think we are getting a good number of responses so far.
awesome. So let's wait for 30 seconds and then we can stop it.
Sure.
And meanwhile, who has given the poll, if they have any questions regarding the metrics or anything like that, just please mention in the chat.
Okay, should we stop the poll?
Yeah, I think we can stop and you can share the results with everyone.
Okay, I'm sharing the results with everyone. And as you can see, like most of the people are saying about NPS and CSAT.
NPS, I think 73% of the people measure NPS, 67 CSAT. Support ticket volumes, 1/3 of the people. Spending transaction value, even lesser than that. And churn and drop rate, even lesser than that. Okay, so we're going to talk about this even further now during the presentation. You can stop sharing that. Okay. So let's now first we'll come back to the topic, which is like surveys and direct feedback, for which we created this session. So there are two types of surveys or direct feedback, I would say. One are transactional. So measures how does a customer feel after a transaction or an interaction. So if we talk about survey, for example, after an Uber ride or a Gojek ride or a Grab ride or Ola ride. So if we are in Asia, we have traveled through one of them. So you'll see most of the time, you'll see a survey like this coming from it, a very, very small survey, like rate your trip. So that's a kind of like a transaction survey where someone is asking right after that instant that how were you satisfied with the ride. But one thing very important in terms of transaction surveys, which I've seen people miss, is we do not integrate with our systems and we do not make this live or real time. Sometimes we are doing transactional surveys very later stages, which people forget. So this is something just to keep in mind, that try if you can integrate with your systems when you're measuring transactional surveys. So what kind of metrics we generally used in transactional surveys? These are CSAT and CES. CSAT, you are seeing, this is an example of CSAT. So CSAT is not always about how satisfied are you. It can be about that particular interaction as well. Rating can be 1 to 5, very simple. And CS is used, we'll talk about it in a moment as well. But what is a metric that should never be used is NPS. So for example, if you have taken a Uber or a Grab ride or a Gojek ride, Gojek will never ask you how likely are you to recommend us after this trip. It's not about the trip. It's about overall experience with the brand. Then only you start recommending. So metrics which people still use in transactions but should not be used is NPS. Then the other kind of survey is relationship survey, which measures the long
Hi Tanuj, am I audible to you? Sorry to interrupt you.
term
Am I audible to you? Tanuj, am I audible to you? I think we are lost in what we lost you, I guess. It's disconnecting.
And that is not just about a transaction. But so for example, if you have purchased the OEM, suppose Suzuki, to a friend or family. I'm not audible, Rajneesh?
Now it's better actually. You were breaking earlier.
Strangely. Okay. Am I back?
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay. Is my PPT also visible?
Yeah, Tanuj, it's visible.
Okay. So I think you all heard me till transactional. Should I move to the relationship again?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I've turned off my camera for that reason. So we were talking about the metrics which needs to be measured, like CSAT and CS in just case of transaction, and NPS not to be measured in that case. But in relationship where we want to measure the overall product feedback or the support, the pricing, overall brand measurement is where the NPS should be used for. So I was sharing an example that if you purchase a car 6 months later, the car company can send you how likely are you to recommend them to a friend or colleague. That is where NPS completely makes sense, because when you purchase a car, you have driven it for 6 months, you have taken it for service as well. And if you have any kind of like feedback on the product or support or even the value for money, you can answer that at that time. So NPS should always be used as a relationship metric, not as a transaction one. This is just an example. I'm sure you guys are familiar, so I'll not talk much about that. So NPS or CSAT can be used to measure overall relationship, but CES cannot be used for measuring overall relationship. So now we'll move forward and talk about actually NPS, CES in CSAT. So in an easier way, what we say, CES measures what is easy to use, CSAT measures the effectiveness of a transaction, and NPS measures the emotional side of the brand. Relationship or emotional. If person is emotionally connected with the brand, they'll continue to do shopping with them. So let's go on to the NPS. So what NPS does is measures customer loyalty and willingness to recommend a brand. What it doesn't measure is a specific interaction. When to use? So measure when customers have used our product service quite a few times, or in some cases periodically. For example, in case of a SaaS company or a B2B company, a periodic 3 months or 6 months relationship NPS will do the trick for you. So let's suppose it's automotive. We can measure every 6 months after a new car purchase, or at least 3 months. For SaaS, measure every 3 months after the onboarding is completed. And if it's an insurance, I think you can measure it once a year or after your claim is processed. Because once you have used the claim and it was easy for the customer to get the claim filed, then it's easier for them to recommend you as a brand. So this is something coming from Harvard Business Review, that a 12 points increase in NPS is making you twice X the growth. Just need to make sure that we are not gaming around with the system. We are not, if you're measuring NPS in a true form, sending it to all the customers rather than the happy ones, and you see your NPS starts increasing, you will see your business also starts increasing automatically, because people will actually start referring you. Maybe let's suppose we are a B2B company. Someone has given us a good NPS. They switch jobs, move to another company. If we have a good relationship with them, they'll definitely recommend us again when they move to another company. Then there's another research that was done by Bain and Company. They are the people who made the NPS. So superior experience earns stronger loyalty for sure, and turning customers into promoters increases a lifetime value of a customer from 6 to 14 times that of detractors. So people who are giving you a positive NPS rating, the chances of them spending more with you is 6 to 14 times more than that of detractors. That is the reason NPS is still important and still there.
Hey Tanuj, I think before we move forward, we got a very good question from Mas Fakhruddin. Please forgive me if I pronunciated the name wrong. From organization Garuda Indonesia, he's asking, is it NPS still relevant? Or do you have any take on it?
Yeah. A very good question, Pap, for asking that. So I believe NPS is totally relevant. One of the most important things is you measure it as not as a transaction, but measure as a relationship metric. So if we are talking about airlines, like Garuda is an airline. So if person has traveled with you 2 to 3 times, then if you send the NPS survey to them, it will be much more beneficial for you to get an answer. The other thing is, you close the loop with them if they give you a negative feedback. If they are dissatisfied with something, you actually reach out to them, you call them and just understand what is going on, and then decide inside the company what are the things you can improve. If you actually work on feedback, NPS is relevant. If you are just taking NPS and not doing anything, then NPS, CSAT, CS all are irrelevant. So just need to make sure that you work on that feedback. And thank you for this question. It definitely makes sense. I've even thought about, once I saw this question, Rajneesh, I thought about why not we do a webinar on this as well. Maybe later.
And we got another question. I think like this is quite similar to this and this topic. So can we take on this question as well?
Sure, tell me.
Okay, so the question is from the username is Vivo1804, and the person is asking when it will be the best for recreational destination to ask NPS.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Rajneesh?
Sure. So when it will be best for recreational destinations to ask the NPS?
Okay, let me read that question. Is it in the chat?
Yeah, it's in chat.
When it will be best for recreational destinations to ask the NPS? I actually cannot understand the question. I'm really sorry. Can you elaborate a little bit better the question? I'll just answer this in maybe
Sure.
the next break. Please ask them, Rajneesh, in the chat to explain this a bit better. I'll definitely answer this.
Okay.
So currently I'll move to the CES part. So what is CES? I think this is the most rarely used. We saw this in the poll as well. So it measures the ease of customer experience by asking customers to rate the amount of effort they had to do while completing a transaction. So a perfect use case would be when you are installing an app. Let's suppose you are installing Uber, Ola for the first time, or Grab for the first time. How much time it took for you to book a test ride? So if you think about it, then in these cases, CES can be used, and we can ask the person, how easy was it for you to book your first ride? And if it was easy, that means you're doing a great job. And if it was not easy, that people had to go through so many different document uploads and things like this, and very difficult to do, we are asking them to make an effort. So when your effort is more, you will see people not onboarding onto your platform as well. They'll just leave in the middle. So most of the applications you will see, there are a lot of drop-offs when people install it, but they don't do anything else. So there can be two reasons. One, the app was not relevant to them today. Maybe later it is relevant. The second thing could be your onboarding is difficult. So it's something where CES can be used. The other places where CES can be used, people are using contact center. They are calling for the support team. They have an issue. Your customer has an issue. They are calling the support team, and they're just going through IVR and never been able to get their answer. And maybe 40 minutes later, they reach the agent. So if you ask the question, how easy was it to reach us out? You'll get to know the answer that your support is causing them the frustration. So these are the places where CES should be used. I would say this is specific for interactions because it's ease of effort, ease of doing an interaction or a transaction. So it should be used only for these kind of transactions where there is some effort from the customer side. So for example, in e-commerce, let's suppose a person is for the first time buying something from you. You can ask this after the checkout process, that how easy was it to purchase an item on the website. Sorry, I've written an article, an item on the website. If it's in SaaS or an application, measure right after onboarding. How easy was it for you to get started on our platform? And let's suppose if it's insurance, customer files a claim, it's a manual claim, then you can ask them how easy was filing the claim process or how easy was the claim process. So this is exactly where CS needs to be used. 1 to 5 scale, Because I've seen some questions that come up to me that, okay, Tanuj, I'm using CSAT. I'm asking how satisfied were you with the claim process, but I want to ask CS, what kind of scale should I keep? Keep the scale consistent. Keep it 1 to 5. So that even at some interactions you're measuring CSAT and some you're measuring CS, you have a single number to track. So 1 to 5, like most of the companies now use 1 to 5. So this is something that should be used. And there are some stats which are again coming from Harvard. Relationship of effort over repurchase. So more the low effort they have while interacting with your brand, the 94% of the people will repurchase from you, which is a very, very high number. And with relationship of effort with increased spending, so 80% of the people say they have low effort, 80% of the people are going to increase spending with their business. So making it easier, like you can have an example again of those applications that we use today, be it Instagram, be it Uber, Ola, or anything, or a Tokopedia or an Amazon. They're making us very easy for us to purchase from them or use them. That is why we continue to keep using them. So it's a very good stat coming from HBR again. Then the last is CSAT. So it also measures satisfaction with a person, product, service, or experience. Person in case of customer support, when customers are interacting with the agent, you can ask about the person's rating as well. So that is where it is used. It is mostly good for short-term indicators because it's measuring the transaction, but not fully predict long-term loyalty or customer retention. When to use it? Right after a usage of product or service. That's why I was talking about integration is very important. So let's suppose if we are talking about retail as an industry, someone visits the store, you can ask people how satisfied are you with your visit to the store today. If it's a SaaS, you launch a new feature, you can just ask them how satisfied are you with feature X. If it's automotive, after a test drive, you can ask them how satisfied are you with the test drive that you had today. So these are the cases where CSAT is used. One thing about CSAT, which we see is if people are satisfied, there's a very, very high chance now of them spreading positive word of mouth to anyone else. Maybe not like on their own, but let's suppose I'm a big fan of Zara as a brand. So I've been recommending Zara to so many people whenever they ask me about, okay, for men's shopping, where should I go? I always recommend Zara. So positive CSAT, positive NPS will help in increasing word of mouth as well. And numbers we have, not huge numbers, but 15% uplift in repeat purchase among highly, highly satisfied customers. So these are some stats coming from HBR again. Rajnish, before I jump on this, any questions that have come up on the chat?
Tanuj, we got a couple of questions, so I tried to answer a lot of them, but there is a question from Rafael. I don't know how to pronunciate the surname, but from Rafael was asking, hello, I have heard about NPS 3.0. So I have the key saying this discussed by Fred Richardson, Richlett and others 2021. Do you know, is this a further developed metrics or approach or to NPS? So it seems like, yeah, I think you are aware of it.
Yeah, I'm aware about this. So that book is talking more about NPS, not in terms of, first of all, it will tell you about not to use NPS in transaction. So the Fred Reicheld has also been a problem when people, he created NPS, but people started using it for interactions, like where CES and CSAT should be used. So he's talking about it should be used for relationship. And then he's talking about, along with NPS, how you should measure the business impact on things that are happening as well. So that book is just not about the NPS. It's also more about how the business impact with feedback and surveys and satisfaction is also measured. It's a very great book.
Yeah, but I think the question is something, do you know, like, is this a further developed metrics approach to NPS? NPS 3.0 is a further developed metrics, or it's similar to the current NPS?
I think it is, but it's not widely practiced at the moment, because I still feel that we are still far away when it comes to how companies in the West use NPS and how we use it in Asia. So I still see that there is a scope for using that, which the metric that he has developed, but it's still going to take some time to get that adopted here. That's a very honest answer that I can give. Maybe something to explore, but at the moment, if we just start seeing using them like NPS CS CSAT correctly and start closing the loop, we will get to that stage later on. Okay. So if I talk about now the key differences, I'll not take much time on this slide. NPS used for relationship surveys at regular intervals. It is used for benchmarking as well, widely used for benchmarking. Like you want to benchmark against your competition, NPS is something that everyone uses. CS, if anywhere if the task is initiated from the customer, like onboarding. CSAT, anywhere if services are provided by the organization, like after the Uber ride or a Grab ride. Scale, most widely used as 0 to 10 or 1 to 10 with a follow-up open-end question in NPS. With CS, 1 to 5, from not at all easy to very easy. A CSAT can be a yes-no or a Likert scale, 1 to 5 with smileys, emoticons and things like this, but always follow up with an open-ended question. Calculation, I think NPS everyone would know. I'll not touch more on this. CES, mostly people see it as average or top box, and same in the case of CSAT. So advantages, NPS helps in measuring overall brand health and NPS benchmarking. Some disadvantage we'll take later as well, but doesn't help fix issues in customer journey, like because it's not measuring interactions. CS helps in creating easy and seamless or effortless experiences. CSAT helps in improving issues related to those transactions. Yeah, so NPS doesn't help in fixing customer journey because you're not measuring that as an interaction, measuring these. So it's difficult. Within the NPS, they'll just talk about the overall brand, just talking about the overall brand health, but might not get you the specific problems in the journey. Some of the time it will do, but not most of the time. But CS and CSAT will exactly tell you where the problems are in the journey, but they'll not tell you what people feel as an overall brand, because they might be happy with your support, but they might not be happy with your product at all. So that's why NPS helps in the overall relationship and CS CSAT helps with transactions. So if I have my take or our take on it as a whole company, so I don't think any metric is bad. Most important part is need to know when to use it. The second is use NPS as a relationship metric only. I think I've been preaching this for like 2-3 years. People still use it for transactions. Then there is a very fine line between satisfaction and effort. So effort, generally think about measuring it in onboarding or support, and satisfaction maybe anywhere else.
Tanuj, I think as media have done, talked about CES, CSAT and CES. So we got a very good question from Parth Sharma from Diwan and Pale. And the question is similar to these measures. So that's why I'm thinking to ask this question. So the question is, do you think these three metrics oversimplify CX, where CX, the customer experience has lots of subjectivity and customer experience?
No, absolutely. He's absolutely right. These simplify CX, but these are not the only CX metrics. So if you're talking about, like, for example, automotives, if you're measuring NPS, or I'll say CSAT maybe, for example, you're measuring CSAT after a sales or after a test drive or after a service is done, right? If you're measuring those and then you are actually closing the loop on it, you will get some improvements across the journey. But if you are completely ignoring like these improvements, what are they making sense as business? So what I've seen, like people never be using support ticket volumes and or checking social media mentions. So there is different teams. So generally a CX team is measuring these surveys, and there is different team. The support team is measuring those support ticket volumes, categories and all. And then there is a social media teams who is handling the social media mentions. But everything, if it is not coming together in the end, that is the major concern. But there are stages, Parth, I would say, from people go to, if people start CX, if they just start with these simple metrics, it's a good way to start, but you have to go to the next step once you have finalized this one. There is another problem. If you think about implementing everything in the first go, it will be a it will create havoc inside the company. So start small with these simple metrics, slowly move to the support tickets, and start involving business metrics wherever you can. I'm going to talk much more about it in a case study. We are going to discuss like the use cases of using them, that why other things are also important. Okay. Any other question, Rajneesh, or should we move to the next poll?
We got a question in Q&A. And the question is, any idea on how to tackle an issue where customers do not fill the survey truthfully? So the problem, I think I can understand from this, that they are asking the same thing in NPS and CSAT, and the assumption of there, if the customer are afraid to give the honest feedback because that can make their life difficult. So this
I
is
think
some kind of assumption.
it's a brilliant question. But see, where I've seen people are not more honest in answering. Generally, is, let's suppose if you are the salesperson and you are the one taking feedback from your customer that how are you doing in terms of sales. So that's actually a conflict of interest. That is why I've seen. I'm making an assumption because I don't know the industry or category here, Rajneesh. I have seen this some in most of the companies like we work with. I asked them how you were measuring feedback before working with us. They would say my salesperson would go to the person and just ask for feedback. And that places the honest answer you'll never see. So if the honest answer you'll see only if the feedback is coming from the company rather than coming from a salesperson asking it. So a neutral person or if you're doing a phone survey or a face-to-face survey, if a neutral person is doing the survey, it's much better. And if you're doing an online survey, coming it from the company is much better, because in that case, you'll get honest answers. Unless there is a category like childcare, for example. I've seen people, we work with some companies which are in childcare where they have like a lot of branches, and they're asking parents how their child is feeling within that school or childcare. In there, I suggested them to go for an anonymous survey because people are afraid from that particular school or center to give an honest answer, because they'll feel that maybe the teacher, when they get to know the answer, they'll not they'll treat their child badly. So only in these kind of cases, I feel an anonymous survey would help you get a better honest answer. But anywhere else, just don't ask your salespeople or account manager to take the survey, rather than do it from a neutral party. I hope that answers your question. Okay, Rajneesh, should I continue?
Yeah, Tanuj, please go ahead. I think it's our time for poll 2.
Yeah, it's time for poll 2.
Should I open it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm launching it. Okay, I've launched the poll 2. Just wait for some time. And should I repeat the question which we have in poll?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so the question is, which activities are you doing currently as a part of your CX program? So how this will be helpful for us? Like once we get this insight, we don't want this. The webinar should work in a unidirectional. If we get this insight, don't in that case we won't focus on the PPT we have right now. We will able to try this presentation as per the feedbacks we are getting.
Yeah, and also like I told you all before, we'll be doing the state of the CX webinar again. So we want to see where you are as a company. So it's important for us to know. So if it's been 30 seconds, you can stop the poll, Rajnish, if you have already seen the answers.
We have received 22 out of. Okay, we got 23 responses. So I'm ending it and sharing the poll.
Okay.
So I'm sharing the result.
Okay, so see, the great part is more than 50% of the people say they have journey level automated and integrated CX measurement, which is brilliant. Periodic NPS, I think most of the people are doing. There are some which still do only annual one time. The only thing that concerns me here is this lapse churn surveys. We are not asking for feedback from people who have left us. It's something I'm going to touch this topic just in the next bit. Closed loop is also increasing, which is brilliant. And I'm sure that I've seen this automotive retail specifically as a sector where closed loop has started increasing much more. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for all this. So we'll move to the next topic. I hope my screen is still visible. So we'll now discuss industry use cases where NPS, where to use these NPS, CES and CSAT. So there's a company, let's suppose it's a non-banking financial company. They give loans to people. So we'll talk about what their journey is, when, where, at which places, what things to be measured. So this is actually the start of their journey. If someone wants to buy a loan, they have to register to the app. They have to upload documentations like unique identifier, their passports maybe, and things like this. And then they apply for loan and just let the company know that what kind of amount they need. And then once the loan gets approved, then there is a disbursement stage. One thing very keen to understand here, that there will be a lot of drop-offs here where people apply for the loan, but they don't go ahead with they don't wait till the loan amount gets come to think. They just leave the process and go because they are somewhere not happy with what happened during the process. So that is where once the onboarding gets completed, it's important to ask, how easy was it for you to get your loan approved? That is where CES gets used, because this is an onboarding journey. And if we talk about disbursement, when the loan is disbursed, we can ask, how satisfied are you with the disbursement process? You can ask another questions as well. How satisfied are you with the time it took, the people who you spoke with? Many other things can be asked during this CSAT, but focus on CSAT here and focus on CES during the onboarding. How easy was it to get your loan approved, for example? Then let's suppose once person, if they are paying the EMI, maybe if it's not an auto debit, they are just paying the EMI, going somewhere and putting the EMI, then you can ask them how easy was it to make the payment. Typical insurance cases where we always go and on annual basis and give the insurance amount. And then let's suppose if someone contacts the support, you can ask them, how easy was it to reach? So CS can be used. And then CSAT can be used for the agent who supported. That how satisfied were you with the agent, the knowledge of the agent, the politeness of the agent, the understanding of your problem. So in some cases like support, you can actually have CES and CSAT running together. So it's not like you use just one metric, you use both of them here. Then let's suppose the person has filled their EMIs, they have maybe contacted some more. Now they have closed the loan. They have paid all the payments and they have closed the loan. Then that is where you can actually ask NPS. If it's a very longer duration, that loan closure, maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, then you can ask NPS on a yearly basis. But if it's, let's suppose the loan is a short loan company, within 4 to 5 months, everything is done, you can ask the NPS after the loan closure. So that is where NPS is used, because now they have traveled throughout the journey And now you can ask them whether they'll recommend you to someone or not. But using it at the onboarding process, that how likely are you to recommend basis on the loan approval that you receive, is not something that I would recommend. Avoid that. Then at here also, the churn can happen that the person was unhappy, they gave a very bad NPS rating and they never return again. They never take the loan again from the same company, but they go do another one. Okay, so this is a complete journey and where each of these things can be used. Rajnish, any questions or should I continue? Am I audible? Hi Rajnish, am I audible? Okay, so I'll continue then. So we'll look at an example of an NPS survey, CES survey. So customer calls the contact center and his queries have been resolved. After the resolution, you can actually put a CES survey, like how easy was it to get the support. Just give me a moment and let me share this on the platform itself. Yeah. So for example, the support. This is the SurveySensum platform. Yeah. So we can ask the customer once the ticket is closed that how easy was it for you to get your issue resolved? So was it easy? Was it difficult? If they took like 1 hour or maybe they contacted social media, they contacted you 4 or 5 times before getting the issue resolved, they'll definitely rate you like you were extremely difficult. And then you can ask them a question, where do you think on how we can improve? And this you can ask to only people who have given a rating of 1 or a 2. Then I was talking about how you can use CSAT as well with the support use case. So you can ask people, please rate the agent based on these key drivers, like agent's ability to understand the problem, knowledge of the agent, politeness of the agent. So if you think everywhere we are using 1 to 5 as a metric, be it CSAT or CS, so that you can track the things in one go. So this is just an example, guys, I created for you on the SurveySensum platform itself, so that you can see how a survey can look like and how you can create it yourself. Okay, so now let's continue. So I have a question for all of you. I'll not take much time on this. If you are already not our customers, are you actively looking for a feedback solution? You can just answer yes or no. If it's a yes, I'll just reach out to you directly and give you a small demo on how SurveySensum can help you out, not just with the platform, but how you can set up your NBFC CES CSAT strategy. So I hope the poll is visible. We'll just continue it for like 10 to 15 seconds. If anyone has a yes or a no, they can just answer it. I'll definitely reach out to them. I'll just take 5 more seconds. 1. Okay, I think that's it. We'll just end the poll and continue forward. Okay, so now this is one of the most important parts. I think I'll reflect back on Parth's point as well. So one mistake people do, that they have started measuring surveys here, but they never measure the survey here. In the poll itself, which we launched, Rajnish, only 2 people mentioned out of 40 that they do drop off surveys. And that's a problem. So what we do, we just take feedback on the positive journeys, ignoring the drop off churn. We'll do it here. So if we do it after onboarding, that means the person has already completed the onboarding and we are just taking their feedback, which is good to do. After disbursement, we are taking that feedback, which is good to do, but they have become your customer. They will give you some answers, they'll help you improve, but these are also some prospects that you have lost, which will help you improve. So one of the companies that we work with, we started doing this. So around what we figured out that 40 to 50% of the people were dropping off during the documentation and loan approval process. So they were leaving here. So marketing is spending millions of dollars getting people to your app, but the people are just going without taking a loan, even when they want to. So they're losing a lot in revenue. So what we did, we installed the drop-off survey, where this survey was not done online. This survey was done via phone, because a person who has dropped off will never ever respond to you over a like a WhatsApp survey or any survey. For drop-off survey, prefer hiring a catty platform who can do phone calls or a catty service. So what we did, I'll show you the survey as well. Very quick survey, very small, short survey, no CES CSAT in it. Just the drop-off survey. So in the drop-off survey, what we asked them, as I seek in from my records, you started loan application but did not complete it. May I know the reasons? Just a simple open-end question. And then any suggestions you would want to share with us. Then we asked them, okay, did you end up taking the loan? And if you did, which brand did you take it from? So the company got the information from those people who did not process with the loan because of some issues, and got suggestions as well how we can improve. Then in the end, they also got the information that which is the competition which beat them out this time. So after we did this and the results we got, within 6 months, most of the things were solved. And then we saw the number, around 8% of this drop-off was reduced. So think about, for that company, it was more than $1 million or $2 million in revenue. So that is why drop-off surveys are very important, which we completely miss out at the moment. And this is exactly the same for the churn surveys as well. When the customer has not visited or not buying from you, for example, in retail, they stop visiting your store, they are not even purchasing online, it's been 6 months, you should ask them what's happening. Are you losing out some from the revenue from the competition, which you don't know about, which you're not aware about? Okay. So now this answers another thing. When you focus on these drop-off and churn kind of surveys to drive actions, you will easily be able to involve other teams as well. So don't just send them CES CSAT kind of surveys. Do these drop-off surveys. Let's suppose once this was done, we sent it to the marketing and the sales team, that this is the revenue you are losing because you're losing this much of people. And when it improved, it showed directly the revenue impact. And you know what happened after that? They started listening to us on these surveys as well. Because they figured out that CX people are just there to help drive their revenues and metrics, whatever they have. So as a CX person, this is very important for you to do. Make sure wherever you know these kind of numbers, get involved and help the other teams, and they will start helping you out.
Tanuj, before asking for the poll 4, I think we have a quite good questions related to this topic which we have covered so far. And so can we ask this question? Like, can we have this question?
Sure.
Okay, so the question is from Nimbus, from Gojek organization, and the question is how to sell customer experience metrics to team that rely on internal metrics for any improvements related to customer experience.
Okay. Okay, so I was thinking about some examples that I can put as I know Gojek, they have a lot of products, different kind of products. So whatever I would say here, just think about, because Gojek has a lot of products, just think about the product, and in that product, see how many transactions a person do on a typical times, and just relate whether those transactions are increasing or decreasing about the CSAT surveys that you also take. Because I know I've used Gojek, you take that CSAT rating question every time whenever there's a transaction or interaction done by a person from the company, just track how much transactions they do or interactions they do, how much money they spend, and how is their CSAT going on. So if we are talking about B2C, this is the best thing that you could do. And if you relate it, then, and you also relate, like let's suppose a person tried to use Gojek services for one time and they never maybe used it again. You should reach out to those kind of people that why this is happening. Second, if people were using you 2, 3, 4 times, they used you and they stopped using it, you should reach out to them 3 to 6 months later that why you are stopping. So measure the number of transactions, frequencies, and see where people stop using you. Relate it with NPS or CSAT, and then also relate it with the revenue that the team is losing. If you do that well, you'll be able to justify to people why you need to improve on CX initiatives that you have. But it's a very, very broad topic. So I don't know if Rajnish, I did not catch the name of the person. Maybe I'll just reach out to them on LinkedIn after this event and talk more about it if that's okay with them.
Okay, Tanuj. And the name is Nimas, but yeah, we can certainly do that.
Okay, so we'll do that. We'll talk more about it after that. Okay. Any other questions, Rajnish?
Not so far.
Okay.
I tried to answer several of them, but yeah, after this, in our Q&A session, we can catch up those questions as well, which I left.
Okay. So let's run through the this poll quickly because I think we have 4 minutes left.
Okay, I'm launching it. Yeah, I launched it.
Okay. So what are your biggest obstacles in a CX program implementation? I'm sure ROI and impact is definitely one thing. What else? Unclear return on investment. Poor integration is also another problem that I see.
Lack of focus on improving experience.
Buy-in, assigning ownership. I think there's one thing I see which
lack of budget is the
that will always be a problem for CX people. Then the other thing is lack of focus on improving experience. NPS CSAT is just a KPI. Okay, I think we should end this poll now. We can share the result. So one thing I definitely see is poor integration is a problem. 65% of the people are mentioning unclear ROI, definitely buy-in from stakeholders, definitely I think these are ROI related. Another one, assigning ownership, definitely ROI related again. Budget will always be a problem for the CX team unless they start improving on the ROI. I think most of the things are related to this. No separate CX team, that means more CX people are doing, and lack of focus on improving experience. NPS CSAT is just a KPI. 60% of the people say this. Okay, thanks a lot for this, and I think we'll use this stat in the next state of CX that we'll do. So let's move on to the next thing. I'll not take much time here, but automotive, just an example, where you should measure, like this is where the drop-off happens. So you should do a drop-off survey here. For sure, anyone who's joining from automotive, you should do that. Do not ignore it, because if someone is coming for a test drive, they have some kind of intent. And buying a car is an expensive decision. Why you are losing out, buy dealer, you should see this. Apart from this, measure CSAT, measure sales booking. After the sales or booking is done, CES plus CSAT again. Then if their waiting period, because waiting period for automotives has been too long, ask for a CSAT that are they happy with the communication that dealer is giving to them. Very, very important, because there is a lot of cancellation because of this. Another revenue driver. Then after delivery, you'll ask CSAT, then initial usage after 30 days maybe, or after 60 days, you can ask them an NPS and CSAT that how satisfied they are with product. Some features about the product and whether they'll recommend us to a friend or not. Then service workshop, because that's another thing they have done. In this, you can ask many things that taking of time. So that is where I've seen that most of the people combine all the surveys together. NPS, basically asking about the recommendation about the dealership. CSAT, how satisfied were they with the communication and the transparency and the fixing it. And the CES is sometimes when there are online bookings. Only in those cases CES is used. One survey captures everything. Okay, so I'll just I'll give this use case. So how a car company increased their car sales from inquiries to conversion by 1%. Again, this was through that drop-off survey. So a company, I'll not name them, they launched a new SUV a couple of years ago. It created a good impact among youngsters and there were a lot of trials, but the booking numbers were still on the lower side. So what we did for the solution was we first reviewed that conversion was better in town areas than city areas. So we looked at all the sales number and booking numbers where things are improving. We looked at by dealership, by state, by region, cities. So this is a data review which everyone should do in, not just in automotives, and everywhere you are doing it. If you're not doing this kind of data review, the NPS and all will not make sense for you. Then once we reviewed the data, then we told them that, okay, we would like to ask some questions about the test ride to people. We started doing the survey, asked about the car as well. So in the survey itself, very surprisingly, people rated lower on the power of the car in cities than town. In cities, people were feeling that car is not powerful. So our team took some test rides in the town and city and found that whenever people in the weekdays time or during the weekends as well, apart from Sunday, whenever people were driving within the city, the route that the dealers were, most of the dealers were taking, they could not feel the power of the car and the car was known for power. So what the action that everyone took, that we trained the sales team to take a different path in cities when test driving SUV, specifically that car, so that people, because youngsters were coming, they could feel the power of the car. A very small change with taking a new route, which was figured out from the survey, helped them to increase the CSAT score and bookings in the city increased by 1%. A very, very small change. Something which could have not happened if we did not look at conversions. We would have never figured out why. So that is where involving these metrics is key. So one last poll. Just launch it. I think the time is finished. So for the people who can still stay, there are a couple of more slides on how to close the loop are there. If you have time, you can stay. Otherwise, I'll see you again. So just launch it for a very short time.
Okay, yeah. I'm launching, I'll stop it after 10 seconds.
Okay. I'm very glad to see that there are many people still here.
Absolutely.
Let's end the poll.
Sure.
Okay.
Let me share the result.
I think so strongly disagree. So the good part is if you see 4, 5, 6, that means people have started doing closed loop, which is the best part. Love it. Okay, we'll stop sharing this. So I see some questions in the chat, but I'll just do this after this slide. Okay. So now let's suppose you have taken the feedback and you have the data. Now what's next? But even before I do that, everywhere I see survey response rates are a problem for everyone. And I hope everyone agrees with me. Typical response rate by email 1 to 2%, SMS very, very poor. I'm talking about Asia. US is good. WhatsApp, I've seen 5 to 15%, and for some companies, I will not name them, but in automotives, more than 20%. Phone, 10 to 20%, but less you cannot automate this, and you can just do it. You cannot do it this on scale. So phone should be used very carefully, like in drop-off surveys and churn surveys. Otherwise, I think WhatsApp will do the best in most of the Asian countries. So 3 major reasons why people drop. We are not sending surveys on the right channel, and second, right time, not doing it the right transaction, not doing it immediately. Then the survey is too long. I've seen transaction surveys carrying 20, 25 questions. Nobody would like to answer that. Then there is a lack of motivation because customers feel nothing will happen if they share their feedback. which is a problem. In some cases, closed loop is done really well. Even if you ask them a little longer survey, people will respond. Your response rate will also be higher. But if you know that there's nothing closed loop happening, even me as a customer, I'll not respond to a survey. So there's a Zendesk did some research last year, and they mentioned that 70% of the unhappy customers whose problems are resolved are willing to do the business with company again. So that means if you're resolving someone's problem, then they feel that, okay, the company listened to me, solved my problem, now I trust them more. 70% of the people trust them more. So how important it is, if they have a negative feedback, you just act on it. Then one other thing that I'll say, if you're measuring feedback but not following up with dissatisfied customers, you might as well as stop measuring it. Because every year you'll measure NPS, CS, CSAT, not doing anything, not following up with anyone, the score is going to stay same or even go down. Nothing will improve, and response rates will also go down. So I'll take a very small process of how closed loop works. This is for automotive, retail, or banking sector where there are branches. So most important thing, so before even sending a survey, make your contact list comprehensive with information like store, dealership, region, store manager, etc. And then send the survey so that you can analyze the data later by all these things. Second, because you have this data about store manager, dealership manager, and things like this, you can set up real-time alerts and tickets for dealership managers after negative feedback. So someone gives a negative feedback, a ticket automatically gets assigned to them that, okay, you are the store manager, they gave a negative feedback there, now you need to work on it. Then set up an SLA and escalation that if in 48 to 72 hours, the store manager, dealership, or the branch manager has not worked on that feedback, then the area manager or regional manager should receive a notification. And if that part is done, we have reached out, we have figured out the issues, then collate all those things together, do your fortnightly or monthly meetings, and decide, okay, for these smaller cases, which can be solved if we do change this process or change that, let's do that so that we have less negative feedback and less support call as well. Because mostly when you will see negative feedbacks coming in here, you will see these kind of things are also mentioned in the support tickets that you receive. So once you fix those issues using this process, you'll see the support ticket volumes also decreasing, and that means your cost starts reducing. So that's how a closed loop needs to be done. A very simple thing I can say, whatever platform that you use, even though we have this in SurveySensum, but you should have this ticketing module where automatically a ticket can open when there is a negative feedback. It's something that I would suggest everyone, but I'll not take much time here. Okay, so I think that's what I wanted to share. So before we leave, if there are a couple of more questions, Rajneesh, I would like to answer them.
Okay, Tanuj. So we have a question from Rafael. What is a good metrics to measure customer loyalty in B2B business with higher customer intimacy?
I would always say, if you're talking about measuring feedback in B2B, measuring relationship in B2B, you should use NPS. We have used NPS. We have used NPS every 6 months. Given time for people to improve on it, like I was telling you about opening a ticket when a negative feedback comes in, and a senior person within your company is actually reaching out to people and understanding what's going on, and then working on that feedback, and then take the service 6 months later again just to see what kind of improvements you have seen. So B2B will always be, I would always prefer NPS over anything else. Unless it's a SaaS, and I will just add one more thing. During the onboarding, I'll ask them, how easy was it to get started? But make sure if someone gives a negative feedback, I get assigned a ticket in that SurveySensum. I receive a ticket that this customer has given me a bad rating. This is just an example, a demo. I can work on it, I can put notes, I can reach out to the customers so that those issues get resolved. So whatever platform you use, you make sure that you have a closed loop or ticketing system there. Okay. What are the questions we have, Rajneesh?
I can see another question from Sudha. And the question is, would like to see any trends recommendation for SaaS product software companies. So I'm not able to get the question, but the question is,
Q&A or chat?
it's in like the registration form we get. Would you like to see any trends? So I'm not able to understand it.
Like,
But
so meaning what kind of service we should use in B2B, right? And it was about SaaS or just B2B, Rajneesh?
No. So there's no B2B or SaaS. Like the question is really from Sudha, and it's just she's just asking, would like to see any trends recommendation for SaaS product software companies. Yeah, so it's about software product companies.
Yeah, so software product and company. So what I've seen generally in SaaS, where like we also measure our service every 3 months, we measure a survey on the product itself. It pops up that how likely are they recommend us. But once the person does the onboarding, after 14 days, we ask them how easy was it to get started with the platform. So these two surveys, and the third one is when people reach out to us on a support chat, we just ask them how satisfied were you with the support. So these are the three things that we use generally.
Okay, and apart from this, like I was facing some issue on that, like I was facing some network issues, so I had to drop in between, so I lose the question. So if
that's okay. I have a question from Rainer. So he's talking about the journey that we were discussing. Like up until disbursement, is it better if you have two separate surveys, CES and CSAT, on separate timing, or both can be merged into one single survey? So both can be merged into one single survey. Just think about if this separation between those two journey points is like only 1, 2, 3 days, then it's better to do it in one single survey. Otherwise, you can do it later. A very good question, Rainer. Okay. We'll be just taking last 2 minutes. Anyone has any questions, or we are ready to end the session? If anyone has any questions, please mention that in the chat or the Q&A. If not, so I think I'd like to thank everyone for joining this session. It was insightful, and hope it was insightful. And you have been using, we have been asking a lot of questions, and hope we have answered them as well. And thank you so much